Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
Ah, yes. This is a band called The Killers. And I'm doing just fine because I want it all. And up like this, it was only a kiss. It was only a kiss. All right. Yes, it is The Killers. It is Mr. Brightside. We promised this last night, but eventually you knew we were going to get to it. Friday night, ladies and gentlemen, in New York City and beyond. Thanks for joining us here on the Joe Concha Show. Well, I told you. I don't mean to brag. Don't want to, spike the football, right? Don't want to do the Heisman here, but I told you back in like October, because I read the Farmer's Almanac, that absolutely, positively, this was going to be a horrific winter. And sure enough, here we are with, well, I don't know. We got a lot going on. We got 18 inches on the way. All right, let's say they're wrong. We only get 12. Still, when was the last time we even got a foot of snow around here, let alone like more than 6 inches? It has not happened in some time. You get 3 inches around here, and it's outright panic. What if we do that times 4 or times 6? It's going to be a big problem, and everything's being shut down already. My kids are going to run in the Bronx at the Armory. Track there, of course. Beautiful track, by the way. I mean, they really did a great job. Nike came in and it is world-class kind of stuff. That's already been canceled. My son's flag football game, however, has not quite understanding that. They said unless there is a state of emergency declared, the games are on in a blizzard in January. All right, you got to admire the effort of the flag football folks there. I am a coach, so, if we play, we play. And I've always enjoyed snow games myself, so this should be very interesting. Even we're playing in a dome, but at the same time, getting there may be a problem. I'll do this little PSA, which is a public service announcement, which says, yeah, you probably should get anything you need as far as food. I was at the Food Town before, right near me here in Wyckoff, New Jersey, and it was, you could not get into the parking lot. People were parking in another lot across the street with completely different stores. It's that packed. The panic is in, and maybe rightfully so. You don't want to be left without food in any way, shape, or form. But then again, this ain't Walnut Grove, Little House on the Prairie, all right, where, what was it again? The Olson's Mercantile is shut down, and then you're screwed as far as getting food. People, all right, you could still probably go out and find something open if you need to on Sunday. But I get stocking up and going about that route. I guess if we lose power, that could be a problem down South Jersey. There's going to be a lot of ice, and that's going to be obviously huge because you lose power when the power lines go down, and ice does that. Snow, not so much. Maybe 18 inches can do the trick, but it's usually wind with power lines and ice, and at least down in places like Tom's River and near Philadelphia, that's good. Cherry Hill, name your town. That's going to be a problem. More up north near New York City, where I am in North Jersey, obviously north of there, all snow. Great skiing on Monday, I guess, but at the same time, we haven't had something like this. And my advice is very simple. Go read a book, right? Go watch the NFL games on Sunday. I mean, this couldn't be better time for the NFL. Boy, are they lucky. I mean, most of the country is going to be snowed in, and you're going to have to watch the Patriots against the Broncos, where the Broncos literally don't have like a quarterback. Like, I could go out there and probably do almost as good of a job as the guy they have starting in place of Bo Nix, who broke his ankle. Now they have a guy out there, Stedham, I believe his last name. Again, when you can't name the quarterback, that's a problem. And this guy has not thrown a pass in the NFL since 2022. That's a long time before you throw a pass. You would think that NFL teams by now at least have some sort of veteran backup that could go in that's played a little bit, maybe a little older, or maybe, not quite good enough to be a starter. The guy who hasn't thrown anything in 3 years, that's going to be a big issue. So if you want my predictions here right now, I'm going to say Patriots win, but it will be close because the Denver defense is quite good. Denver is almost unbeatable at home. And then the Seahawks and the Rams, I got the Rams. The Rams are on a roll. They're going to win on the road. I can't have the Seahawks and the friggin' Patriots in the Super Bowl. Ugh, yuck. Bad uniforms. At least give me the Rams. Give me something to work with here, and we'll go from there. The Rams and the Patriots have met twice in the Super Bowl, and both times the Patriots have won. Anyway, that is your NFL portion of this show that otherwise you're here to talk about, obviously things going on in the world from a political perspective. And boy, we have a lot going on in the world right now. So where shall we start? Boy, so many things to choose from here as far as, Don Lemon. Sorry. As phony as a $2 bill. This guy begs for attention, and right now he feels he's having his moment. He thinks he's Jimmy Kimmel. He thinks that, okay, I stormed this church with all these other professional paid agitators in Minneapolis who got up in the face of all these parishioners, these poor people who just wanted to pray on a Sunday morning nearly a week ago, and Don Lemon's up in the face of the pastor. Remember, they went in there because they thought that an ICE agent may be in the church. So they're going to wreck everything. This is how the left goes. It's all about hate. It's all about division. And now Don Lemon, who was not arrested by the DOJ actually took in 3 people that were directly involved in all this and leading it. Lemon got a pass because apparently some judge who is friends with Don Lemon's husband, who's a white guy, which I only point out the race because Don Lemon once said that white men are the biggest threat to this country. So he only went out and, married one, which is totally, normal. Anyway, the point is that Don Lemon is now begging the DOJ to arrest him because that would be the best thing for his otherwise ridiculously horrible career. This is cut number 1. Go.
I stand proud and I stand tall. This is not a victory lap for me because it's not over. They're going to try again and they're going to try again. And guess what? Here I am. Keep trying. That's not going to stop me from being a journalist. You're not going to diminish my voice. Go ahead. Make me into the new Jimmy Kimmel if you want.
You'd love that.
Because I'm not going anywhere and I'm going to believe the same things, whether you want to, whatever. None of this is about justice. This is about power. And it's about people who are incompetent.
It's about your friggin' ego, dude. I mean, enough already. Oh, God. If there is a more insufferable person on the planet outside of Joy Reid, Sonny Hostin, Don Lemon, and Jasmine Crockett, please, God, let me know. Anyway, so now the DOJ probably, hopefully, will move ahead with this and arrest him. But then again, if they don't, Don's going to be pretty disappointed because he wants the trial. He wants the attention. Again, he has all the money in the world. CNN paid him tens of millions of dollars while he was there for being in third place and being an embarrassment to the network. I mean, I guess that's how the industry works, but that's Don Lemon, and that is Don Lemon doing Don Lemon kind of things. And again, this guy's 60 years old, and to be this much of an adolescent just shows you what an ass clown he completely and totally is. Meanwhile, speaking of ass clowns, here we have Minnesota protesters outside of JD Vance's hotel. Now remember, the vice president went to Minneapolis to obviously meet with ICE agents and with their bosses to say, hey, you're doing a great job. Don't let all this media coverage get you down. You've done nothing wrong. So Minnesota protesters found out exactly where he was, and they're going to let JD Vance have it. This is cut number 2. Go. Sounds like, a World Cup qualifier in Congo, but all right, that's fine. Actually, if that's outside my window, kind of gets me in a good mood. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, let's play cut 2 again. That had a happy kind of rhythm to it. Let's do cut 2. Yeah, there it is. All right. Oh, la, dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Let's keep doing it. Get in a good mood right now, little horn. Is that supposed to piss off JD Vance? All right, Elias. It's got the happy finger right there. But I understand the point. Now, look, here's the only problem. JD Vance left 12 hours before that video was recorded. You morons! Check the vice president's schedule. It's everywhere. You go online, you're like, oh, he flew out 12 hours ago. Yet we're protesting outside these poor people in this hotel. It is minus 10 right now in Minneapolis. Minus 10. Okay? Or, let's see if I'm doing the math, 70 degrees lower than what John Katsimakidis is currently in St. Petersburg, Florida. Maybe. No, 80 degrees now if I'm doing the math right. I was on with Katz earlier, and he's talking about it. I'm in St. Pete's, and it's currently 81 degrees. You son of a... I know he's my boss, all right? And I show pure respect, but that was a rhetorical shiv our boss threw at us right now, knowing how cold it is and the blizzard that's coming here. And this guy, look, there's a reason why he's as successful as he is. He got out of here when the going looked like it was going to be bad, got in a flight, and got the hell out. And if he comes back on Memorial Day, God bless him, because that's what I would do. But I didn't have family here. Anyway, so Minnesota protesters, great job you protesting outside of a hotel that JD Vance left 12 hours prior. Meanwhile, again, I got certain people I play in this show, if you're tuning in every night now, and what I understand, the audience is only growing, which is only a good thing, a great thing. And as you've noticed, we have certain people on this show almost every night, because I think what they say is interesting, far more than me. That is certainly for sure. And here is Stephen A. Smith. Now, again, Stephen A. Smith is a guy who used to be on ESPN just to talk about basketball. Like, that is his sweet spot. Then he was so good at making an argument that he became kind of the Swiss Army knife, kind of like how I am on Fox. I don't make Stephen A's money, but you understand my point. When I go on Fox, I can talk about anything. At first, I was just there to talk about the media and to critique media, and that was great. And that was my way into Fox, and I got a lot of airtime for it. But now they basically put me on to talk about a whole bunch of things, because when you are the Swiss Army knife and you prove that it doesn't matter what topic it is, as long as you're given, basically the gist around it, you could do a little studying, you do a lot of things in terms of preparing. All right, great. So Stephen A., same thing, as far as you could put him in any situation and talk about anything. And now he's talking about politics a lot more, and he may run for president, believe it or not. Here he is talking about Gavin Newsom at Davos. Now remember, this is the California governor flying all the way to Switzerland when you have the Palisades, which burned almost to a crisp nearly 1 year ago. Is he working? No, not working. He doesn't really work at all. He does podcasts, a whole bunch of interviews, and then otherwise is off in Switzerland to troll President Trump. He literally bought a pair of knee pads with him that he has online to sell. They're called Trump knee pads, and he says to all the European leaders, don't wear these, stand up to Trump. Stand up to Trump? Really? Oh, that's like, stand up over what exactly? Over what? He never has an answer. And when you look at Gavin Newsom, in terms of his record in California, that's everything. Forget about the gel. Forget about the great teeth and all these things in terms of what makes him look like a great president. All right? This guy goes to Davos, which is the most pretentious sounding place possibly in the world. And given his rich background, right? He's among the richest people in the world, and at the same time looked very uncomfortable. And the fact that he bought these Trump knee pads onto a stage and thought for a second that he was some sort of like version of Jimmy Kimmel meets Stephen Colbert, which, trust me, these are already bad versions of horrible human beings and not very good comics on their own. So if you're striving to be Kimmel or Colbert, that's also not a good thing. And he thought that it was funny with the Trump knee pads. And then he was confronted by what Team Trump is led by Scott Bessent, who was beyond awesome, went off on him. And then he says, you know what? That is very unbecoming. It's very unbeneath the president's administration and the presidency. You literally bought knee pads onto a stage. That's not beneath anything. That's not unbecoming anything. So that's his deal, man. He's a troll. He's no more than like Eric Swalwell meets Jasmine Crockett. But when was the last time you heard an idea from Gavin Newsom? You said, wow, that's awesome. That's a great idea. I hear from Donald Trump all the time. Drill, baby, drill. If you want to be very general about that, we should drill more off our shores. We should frack more. We should have more energy independence to the point where we don't have to depend on Saudi Arabia and Russia and Iran and all these other countries. So if we're energy independent, therefore, gas prices and the cost of everything goes down. That's a great idea. Greenland, great idea. No one talked about Greenland until Donald Trump came along, especially in the second term. As far as minerals, as far as security, it's a piece of ice. But Trump saw opportunity, and now he's going to get everything he wants out of Greenland. When's the last time Gavin Newsom did something that was outside the box that you say, wow, great idea? No. This guy allowed, again, the Palisades to burn a year ago, and you can count on one hand how many homes have been built since then. He's inept. He's a troll. He's absolutely phony. And if Democrats put him up, I swear, same result as Kamala Harris, where you're going to have Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina looking at this California elite rich kid and saying, no, you don't relate to me. You can't solve my problems. I like what I'm seeing with Trump, especially with the economy. And he's going to lose every swing state. Actually, save the tape right now. Let's see. January 23rd, 9-something p.m. Yep, do that. And I guarantee you that will come to fruition. Anyway, here is Stephen A. Smith on Gavin Newsom at Davos, and it is, let's call for what it is. It's perfection. Cut number 3, go.
To go over there and to be in the presence of other European leaders speaking against the president of the United States. I'm not down with that. Y'all might be. I'm not down with that at all. Say whatever you want here as a governor from the opposite side of the aisle of a state in the United States on American soil, fine. But I'm one of those people, when we go somewhere else, it's America first.
Boom. Make America great again, America first. Stephen A. wants to run as a Democrat. I'm pretty sure that it sounded very Republican-y to me. So, yeah. If I'm Stephen A., if he runs as a Democrat, he's not woke enough, he's not left enough, he's too candid and too authentic to win the nomination. But boy, he would make things very, very interesting on that side of the aisle. And again, it's a great country, right? Because Stephen A. Smith is a guy who has talked about sports his whole life, never really ran a business, and yet if you put him into this field, he could be as much of a favorite as anybody when you consider who the competition is. Gavin Newsom, AOC, Fred Flintstone over in Illinois, JB Pritzker. Who else we got as far as people that could run for Pete Buttigieg, who could barely run South Bend, Indiana, couldn't fill one pothole? That's your competition? Yeah. You know what? I like Stephen A's chances if he gets in, but he won't. He is the highest paid guy over at ESPN right now by a country mile. Hard to leave that money. And again, does he really, really want to be president, or does he just like talking about things in a way that says, if I were president, I would do this? But the commitment is overwhelming as far as campaigning and as far as just resonating with people, getting the nomination, winning the general, all the money you have to raise. I don't think in the end he has an interest in doing that. But for the time being, he's entertaining enough to get on this show. That's certainly for sure. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with more so much more in just a moment on 77 WABC.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So I was on Sean Hannity's show last night on Fox, and then I see in that little corner in the bottom, it's called a bug. It's a preview bug. And in TV terms, that means it always says coming up. This way, like, if you don't like the guest, you're like, oh, Concha again? Ugh, I'm going to change the channel. Wait a minute. There's Dan Bongino. He's coming up next. Dan Bongino, of course, number 2 over at the FBI. and did his best. I mean, I honestly think he walked into this and saw the bureaucracy and everything that's just a complete and total mess, and obviously committed himself to the president. And look, I don't think I'm sharing anything that's exactly not public knowledge, but Dan Bongino makes a fortune doing his podcast. It is that successful. It is taken off to the point where, with Rumble and other outlets, he can do things in terms of reaching people and really resonate with people because he's so authentic and he has the credentials. He's not just some blowhard on the air who doesn't have any background, say in law enforcement, for example, former NYPD, former Secret Service, protected Democratic presidents, right? Democrat presidents. And obviously a guy that if you watch him on Fox or you listen to him behind the mic is a guy who will share exactly how he feels unapologetically. And I could call Dan a friend, and it was great to see him on After Me last night on Hannity. And here he is. He hasn't lost his fastball. This is Randy Johnson-like. Cut number 5, Bongino going off on the media in terms of the way they cover ICE and the weenies that they are, where they have no clue what they are talking about. But Dan could say that better than I can. This is cut number 5. Go.
Do you dipwads even read your own headlines? Are you that stupid? These are these media morons. People who've never spent a day wearing a badge, never kicked in a door, never arrested some child predator or some bank robber or some gang member. These morons don't know anything about the safety status of the country.
Well, yeah, he's right? I mean, in other words, we had this story today, and maybe I should save this for a little bit. Nah, let's do this now. A 5-year-old was detained by ICE, and this 5-year-old, again, ICE is now targeting preschoolers, those not even in kindergarten yet, that if you are here illegally, that ICE is going to come after you, arrest you, and throw you out of the country without any due process whatsoever. Actually, I'm not describing this very well. Let's go to cut number 15, Mr. Kevin, and I want to hear the way ABC described this because it is by far the most dishonest thing you will ever heard. Cut number 15, go.
The growing outrage in Minneapolis, the images of a 5-year-old boy returning home from preschool, detained by ICE. Agents taking the boy and his father into custody. Vice President JD Vance in Minneapolis today defending ICE agents, claiming they were protecting the child, saying, what are they supposed to do? Matt Rivers in Minneapolis again tonight.
Tonight, the haunting images sparking a firestorm. A preschool boy standing in the Minnesota cold, swept up in the ICE crackdown.
Oh, God.
School officials say 5-year-old Liam, wearing his blue hat and backpack, and his father, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, had just pulled into their suburban Minneapolis driveway Tuesday when agents took that father into custody. The school then saying an agent essentially used the 5-year-old as bait, directing him to see if anyone else was home before taking the boy away. The district saying Liam is among 4 students recently detained.
Now, I have a son named Liam as well. He is 10 years old. And I can tell you that report, if you're teaching a class, let's say on, Journalism 101 and basic reporting, I would give you an F- if that grade is even possible. For starters, they don't mention the fact that Liam's dad is here illegally, that Liam's dad has a criminal record. And that's unfortunate for Liam. Right, Liam has nothing to do with this, right? He's an innocent 5-year-old kid in the freezing cold. Again, I mentioned it's something like minus 10 in Minneapolis right now. And there he is going off to preschool. And unfortunately, ICE agents were doing their job, and they had a job, and that is to find Liam's dad, who is here illegally, who has a criminal record. And unfortunately, if that is the case, you're not allowed to be here anymore. Now, here's the part about the story that makes absolutely no sense. They're trying to say legacy media, in this case, ABC News, right? The former home of Ted Koppel, right? And Brinkley, and even Peter Jennings, who I thought did a decent job at World News Tonight, at least pretended to be objective, or at least did his best job to be objective. The fact that this network is trying to say, and not just them, it's NBC, it's CBS, not so much CBS, but CNN, MS Now, whatever it's called, everybody jumping on this as ICE detains 5-year-old. Well, the problem is that when you detain the dad, who again criminal here illegally, then what are you to do with the 5-year-old, Liam, in the cold? Are you supposed to just leave him alone? No, of course not. You're going to let him freeze to death in minus 10-degree weather? There's no guardian around. We don't know where mom is. So ICE has to detain him, not in an arrest way. They didn't throw him in a cell. And you know exactly how they're trying to portray this right now, how they're trying to make this look, that the kid was thrown into Shawshank, right? There's Andy Dufresne, there's Red, and there's the 5-year-old kid. That's basically what they're trying to say here. When ICE did the humane thing, which is, okay, we had to arrest your dad, and that's horrible. But at the same time, we can't leave the kid out in the cold. And if you put him back in the school, well, there's no one there to pick him up. So they took him into custody, but not custody in terms of he's under arrest. Just get the kid warm, get him a hot chocolate, give him something to watch, entertain him in some way. ICE did exactly the right thing here, and that's the way ABC News portrayed this. And thank God that JD Vance went to Minneapolis, called out this report. The press was forced to report on it. But this is what, we're dealing with. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care who you voted for. Common sense people see this and say, wait a minute. This reporting is wrong. It's dishonest. And this is the way things have been for some time now as far as our legacy media. But that's the way they went about this particular story. And I'm sorry, I'm choking on my own rage here. Meanwhile, speaking of JD Vance, here we have him talking about how when you look at fraud in Minneapolis, it's a very, very bad thing, right? We're talking about $9 billion, primarily stolen from those who were inserted there as people from the Somalian community who were imported. You imported chaos, right? Third world country. Come to Minneapolis, as Tim Walz said, we're going to give you free driver's licenses and free health care and free everything. If you lived in a horrible place like Somalia, wouldn't you take that offer? Oh, we'll go to America. We'll get all this free stuff. And oh, by the way, we have completely inept leaders where we probably could get away with a lot of fraud, which they did almost. And here we are. So here is JD Vance talking about how not just Minneapolis, but in California, the fraud actually may be worse. Wow, shock under Gavin Newsom. He works so hard on his podcast or traveling to Davos. So yeah, you can completely believe this. This is cut number 6. Go.
Look, I think we have a fraud problem that is much worse in California than it is in Minnesota. I was talking actually to our small business administrator. I think she's found probably $500 million of fraud in Minneapolis and the broader Minnesota area. I think she's found $7 billion worth of fraud in California. So this is unfortunately a problem bigger than Minnesota. But it's also, it highlights how absurd this effort to prevent the immigration enforcement is. If you look at blue states, blue cities, you look at Memphis, Tennessee, not a Republican mayor. You look at red states like Texas, but blue cities like Austin. You do not see this level of chaos over the enforcement of our immigration laws. What you have is a small band of very far left people who are doing everything that they can, up to and including assaulting law enforcement officers and raiding churches, to try to make ICE out to be the ultimate enemy and to kind of engage in this weird small-scale civil war against federal immigration law. It's absurd. It's added a lot of chaos here in Minneapolis, and it's one of the problems why I'm here to fix it.
Okay. You want to run against that guy in 2028? Roll the dice and take your chances. Because at age, 40, 41, I met JD at the vice president, excuse me. Let me show some respect. At Mar-a-Lago during New Year's Eve a year ago, 23 days, and got to talk to him for a bit. My wife and I obviously went up to him. It's funny. He's like, hey, Joe, what's going on? They watch Fox. So I'm not bragging, I swear, but, even though I never met JD Vance before, it's almost like these guys because they watch the network a lot. I'm on it a lot, and therefore, obviously, I know who he is. So it was a very comfortable conversation, but I could not get over the fact that this guy is only 40, 41 years old. I mean, talk about having your whole life in front of you. And right before he was chosen as vice president, he was, a senator of Ohio. He has a great life story as far as, growing up in a broken home, mother, a complete drug addict, bringing home, different men back to the house, all abusive towards JD Vance. He gets through high school. He then decides to join the Marines. No one forced him to do that. There was no father figure to say, you know what, you probably need some discipline. Maybe this is a good thing for you. On his own, he decided to do that. He survives the Marine Corps, which I've read some books about the training that Marines go through in Navy SEALs, and trust me, I am not built for that, right? I was built for high school football in 3 days, but not that. No way, no shot, no how. And then after that, he decides, all right, I'm going to go to Ohio State University from Ohio. Graduates in 2.5 years. You know how hard that is? That's basically, you graduated twice as fast as almost everybody else in the school. And then he goes to Yale, right? Law school. It's part of the Yale Review, which is a very difficult thing to get onto. Graduates from there, writes a book. It becomes a movie. It becomes a best-selling book, a top-selling movie. And then from there decides, you know what, I think I'll run for Senate. And first time in, wins. And then he's the vice president of the United States. And I would bet pretty good money that in 2028, if that's the arguments that he makes, which is so calm and so thought out with absolutely not even an or an I don't know or even a search for a thought. The guy is so confident in his ability to make an argument because he knows he's on the right side of it and he has the principles to push it through. You give me JD Vance and Marco Rubio, or even if you not flip it. I mean, I don't think JD Vance wants to be vice president again, but I'll take Rubio at the top of the ticket as well. Believe me, he is just as strong. Boy, you put him up against a phony like Gavin Newsom or a freak like AOC or Jasmine Crockett, or again, an AI-generated person like Pete Buttigieg, or a Nepo baby like JB Pritzker. I'm sorry. I don't see how this thing would be close. I get that many people will just vote against Vance because, well, they just vote against the Republican side. Mitt Romney was right about one thing in the 2012 campaign, where he said that automatically 47% of the country is going to root and vote against us. He was right. Like, no matter what you do, no matter what your record is, 47% of the country is probably going to vote for the other side, no matter who is the candidate, whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's Joe Biden, who I would think Democrats, even in 2020, knew that his brain turned applesauce. They didn't care. It's voting against the other side. So you're going to lose that 47%. The trick is, do you get enough in the middle, and particularly in the swing states I mentioned before, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada? Do you win 4 of those 7 states? And if you do, you win the presidency. Because Florida and Ohio are gone. They used to be swing states. Nope. Red Florida. Definitely red Florida. Like Alabama red almost at this point. Ohio, same way. So yeah, win 4 of those 7 states and you win. And I think if Democrats run somebody from New York, like AOC, or they run somebody like Gavin Newsom, or Kamala Harris from California, or Pete Buttigieg, who has no record, who's so phony and just, sorry, don't see it, or Illinois for that matter, J.B. Pritzker, they're screwed. They are screwed, especially if J.D. Vance is the guy that is going to be at the top of the tippet because he's that good, that smart, that smooth, that confident. I am Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. We're back with so much more in just a moment on 77 WABC.
It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, party people. Friday night before the blizzard of the century. All right, I don't know about that. Century, that's 100 years. This one's going to be one of the biggest. No question about it. And just get ready. Just get ready. What else can you say? I mean, there's nothing much you could do. When I lived in Hoboken, there's not really any shoveling because when you live in an apartment, well, there is no driveway. You got some steps, I guess, like a stoop. How long could that take? But otherwise, snow days were like the best days around a city. I mean, no question about it. Everybody's off, right? It's a Sunday, I get it, but Monday, most likely, most people will be off. Certainly people will have their kids off from school as well. So, we could get miserable about it and talk about the cold and everything. But, maybe when it's July 17th and it's a Saturday around 7 o'clock and the sun's not remotely down yet and it's 84 degrees, maybe at those times, think back to January 24th and 5th and the horrible snow that came and how cold it was and how it froze over, and maybe just appreciate those moments sometimes during July, or even like October. It's the 16th and it's a Sunday afternoon around 4 and the leaves are starting to change and it's like 67 degrees and it's not quite sweater weather and it's not quite t-shirt weather, but boy, it's nice out and the air is crisp and everything's great. Appreciate the warm weather, my friends, during weekends like this, but at the same time, appreciate the snow as well, because you can make it fun if you have the right attitude. No question. Speaking of the wrong attitude, I love this. It's worth replaying again because this guy has such balls. I mean, I don't know how else to put this. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to play it. It's about a Somalian guy who says he has PTSD from being detained by ICE, and he's starting a GoFundMe for $50,000 because he's going through too much stress and anxiety and really needs the money. I'm not actually. I'm thinking like maybe somehow he'll get more money out of this. Like somebody will be dumb enough to be like, I kind of do feel sorry for him. Maybe I should, donate. No, so I'm not going to play it. Instead, I think this is very telling. And President Trump shared this video before, but you tell me after listening to this video about the ultimate plan for the Democratic Party as far as open borders and then think of it as algebra. A plus B plus C equals X plus Y plus Z type of thing. Like it is 4D chess in terms of, it's almost like the Chinese. The Chinese always think, all right, we're not going to try to win in the moment right now, but they have like a 20-year plan, a 50-year plan. I think in their case, it's like a 100-year plan. But either way, I think Democrats are taking some sort of miniature version of a long-term plan to gain permanent power. And I think this video tells the story perfectly. It's 1 minute and 39 seconds, but boy, it is the best 1 minute and 39 seconds you will hear on radio all week. The president thought highly enough to share it on Truth Social. This is cut number 7. Go.
Open borders plan to entrench single-party rule, explained in under 2 minutes. 1. Flood the country with untold millions of illegals by land, sea, and air from all over the world, enough to eclipse the populations of 36 individual U.S. states so far. 2. Prioritize the needs of these millions of non-citizens over the needs of the American citizen, with free flights, buses, hotels, meals, and phones, ensuring their loyalty to the political party that imported them. 3. Keep them in the country at all costs, even when they commit violent crime like murder and rape. Attack the language used to describe the criminals, as opposed to the criminals themselves. Slander critics as racist. 4. Ensure their privileges are made irrevocable with city and state sanctuary laws that act as population magnets. Codify permanent status and ensure non-cooperation with ICE. 5. Count the non-citizens in the census that will determine congressional apportionment in the House of Representatives. As of now, that would equal 13 extra congressional districts, a tremendous amount of electoral power. 6. Wage a massive, heavily funded lawfare campaign to change state voting laws that legalize mass mail-in ballots, no signature verification, and no proof of citizenship requirements, making it nearly impossible to prove voter fraud. 7. Lock in the permanent voting majority with campaign promises of lavish benefits and permanent privileges, enshrining generational fealty to the Democrat Party. 8. Win elections. 9. Entrenched single-party rule has been achieved. The best part? Your tax dollars are paying for it.
Whew. All right, sleep tight tonight. Not one thing that was said in that video is inaccurate. It is all happening, or at least Democrats are trying to make it happen. Think during the Biden years for a moment, when we had this push by the Biden years, the auto pen years. I keep doing that. Biden wasn't in control. I'm not going to attach his name to something that had nothing to do with. The auto pen years of 2021 to 2025 included the push for federalized voting laws. In other words, one law for the entire, one set of rules for all 50 states. So Democrats could then say, all right, if you don't need ID, voter ID, then all right, don't vote with voter ID. Let's see, we could have, 10 weeks of early voting, 15 weeks of early voting, 24/7 drive-through early voting. We could have mail-in ballots out the wazoo, which only leads to corruption, obviously, because all these things pass through so many different hands. I mean, maybe we don't want that. Maybe we just want one paper ballot voted on one day, and then therefore it's easy to track. So many other countries are able to count their votes and have a result within a couple of hours. In California, you have congressional districts, which aren't very big, and 4 weeks later, you still don't know who won. Why is that, I wonder? You even have Eric Swalwell, who's running for governor of California, may very well win, who will, if he is governor. His idea, his big idea, is to have voting by phone. Hi, who's calling? Hi, I'm John Smith. Who do you want to vote for? Oh, the Democrat. Great, John, thanks. No check of ID. How do you do that over the phone? That's the thing. The easier it is, the more chances there are for corruption. And Kristen Sinema, somebody should write a book about this. Sinema and Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Sinema of Arizona, they blocked Democrats from passing this. They would have, if not for those 2 votes. So you'd have that, and eventually you would have a situation where Democrats would also have 2 more states added, Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., which is utterly ridiculous. Washington, D.C. doesn't even have 700,000 people living in it. New York has 8 million, right? 700,000, and they get 2 senators, which of course will be Democrat. And then Puerto Rico, same deal. They get 2 Democrats there as well, and they have a perpetual majority in the Senate. So no matter what, at best, even if you control the House, if you're Republicans, well, you're not getting anything through because you have, obviously that blockage in the Senate. And then if you have a Democratic president, then that's not working either. But again, between that, expanding the Supreme Court to looking like a football roster, as many as it takes before you have a majority, they will do that. And that video exactly explained how, in terms of allowing illegals in here. Before you know it, they have driver's licenses, they have health care benefits. Then if they're voting, it's impossible to prove fraud because, well, they don't really live here. Therefore, how do you trace it back to anybody who doesn't actually have citizenship? It all makes sense. And that video should be played on a loop leading up to the 2026 elections because that's what Democrats want. They want power and nothing more, and they will do anything to get it. This is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment on 77 WABC.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, everybody. So there was a time in the 21st century, that's this century, where Barack Obama, as president, actually was as tough on immigration as President Trump is now. I'm not joking. Let's listen to Barack Obama at the time when he was president, talking like, I don't know, Donald Trump. This is cut number 11. Go.
We're serious about economic growth. It is time to heed the call of business leaders, labor leaders, faith leaders, law enforcement, and fix our broken immigration system.
Yes! Here's Trump.
We have to stop illegal immigration. We have to.
There are liberals. That's the response. I don't get it. They cheered Obama when he said the same exact thing that Trump is saying now. I don't, actually, I do get it. It's all phony. Meanwhile, Scott Bessent, who really, when this guy speaks, there really should be like a 2-drink minimum. Like you get like the Comedy Cellar downtown, Lafayette. I think that's on, yeah. Many good nights there, no question. Saw Dave Chappelle there once, which was very cool. Or Daryl Hammond, I saw there before. Jerry Seinfeld. I always seem to go on the right nights. Long time ago when I was single. I haven't been there lately. But the point is, here is Bessent, who is probably the MVP of the Trump administration in year one. Marco Rubio, a very close second. Marco has like 9 jobs. So he's a little spread out right now. But Bessent running the Treasury, completely supported Donald Trump on tariffs. And sure enough, boy, that seems to be paying off at this point. The economy is roaring. We're heading towards 50,000 as far as the Dow Jones. Wages are up. Unemployment is steady. Obviously, inflation at a very respectable 2.6%. Tariffs were supposed to destroy the economy. Actually, having the exact opposite effect. But Bessent does comedy well. And he goes off on Gavin Newsom here. Again, Newsom bought knee pads to Davos and then tried to use it as a joke against Trump, saying that world leaders should be wearing knee pads around Trump because I guess they want to service him in some sort of, wow, that sounds homophobic almost what Newsom was doing. But the point is that here's Bessent turning it around on Newsom, and it is patently awesome. Cut number 10, go.
Governor of California, with no signature achievements, But to say strange things like President Trump is a Tyrannosaurus Rex, what the hell does that mean? I could say Gavin Newsom is a brontosaurus with a brain the size of a walnut.
True.
And if you brought the knee pads, maybe that was for his meeting with Alex Soros. I don't know.
Yes, Alex Soros, the spawn of George Soros, was there in Davos as well. And there's Newsom taking a smiling picture with his sugar daddy, who is Alex Soros. It basically is the Democratic Party's bitch right now. Can I say that on the air, FCC? Yeah, I'm sure I can. That's fine. Female dog. That's all I'm referring to at this point. Meanwhile, Joe Scarborough is, speaking of clowns, here he is. It's January 23rd, 2026. We have been talking about how horrible it is for men to be playing against women in sports. I don't care if you declare yourself as trans, you still have X chromosomes, you have a chemical advantage. We've been talking about this literally for years. And now Scarborough finally is on board giving Democrats advice on what to say and what not to say about this. Welcome to the party, pal, to quote John McClane from Die Hard. This is cut number 12. Go.
85% of Americans, I've been saying this for 10 years now, 85% of Americans don't think that men who transition after puberty should be able to compete against women. That's easy. Don't get wrapped up on that. That's easy.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Yes! There's Bruce Willis there to step in. Thank you, John McClane. But yeah, I mean, Joe, get the memo. I guess he got the memo, but talking about this since like 2022, dude. So again, thanks. Welcome to the party, pal. This is more of a serious topic, but we had hearings on Capitol Hill today about an illegal in California, Gavin Newsom, who got a truck license, right, and was able to drive an 18-wheeler delivering stuff and killed several people on a highway because he doesn't speak English and therefore did not understand the signs. And this is why, in this case, we're being told by one Republican congressman that, sorry, you're going to come here, you need to learn English, especially if you're operating an 18-wheeler. He explains why. This is cut number 13. I think, I'm sorry, if you're a Democrat listening to this right now, how do you not agree with this? Cut 13, go.
Respectfully, Congressman Crockett, the accident that was cited in the chair's opening statement killed people because that driver did not understand what he was doing. And an 80,000-pound vehicle is much different than a car. It does not stop on a dime.
Nope.
It doesn't turn on a dime. These are very heavy vehicles that have to have people trained and skilled to operate them. And they need to understand the language we speak. Here in America, that's English.
Thank you. And it's so true. And it's not like, oh, you're being xenophobic. Oh, well, we're a melting pot and everybody should be able to speak their own languages. Not if you're in certain situations, not if you're in certain kinds of occupations. And that was perfectly said, no question. I'm going to leave it here, guys, all right? Because this is the best thing ever. It is my cut of the week. Jasmine Crockett, she's a gun-toting Texan. Seriously, cut 8. Play it real quick.
Listen, I'm a gun-toting Texan, right? So I own firearms, I'm licensed to carry, and I also care about agriculture. Way before I was running for the United States Senate, I served on the Ag Committee. I'm the girl who's actually lived in rural Texas. I'm the girl that has actually driven farm equipment.
Oh, God, give me 2 photos. One of Jasmine Crockett with a long gun, gun-toting Texan. One of her on a tractor. Please, that's all I want. Nothing more. I am Joe Concha. This has been the Joe Concha Show. Tune in next Monday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time on 77 WABC. Until then, have a snowy weekend. Bye-bye. Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially
healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.